Mobile radios that output in the neighborhood of 20 watts can be an excellent choice for those looking for a vehicle-mounted radio that doesn't require extensive wiring for either the antenna or, more importantly, for the power supply. The Wouxun KG-XS20H is one such radio. I usually refer to these radios as mini mobiles. This is due to their small size and low power requirements while still outputting plenty of RF for your travels around town. As I just mentioned, mini mobiles have the advantage of being easy to install in most vehicles. As we'll see in a minute, the XS20H comes with both a long power cord for direct connection to the vehicle's battery, along with a shorter cord with an accessory plug connection for easy connection to a 12-volt accessory socket found in most vehicles. The XS20H's manual claims that it draws less than 4.5 amps, which makes its current draw much less than the limit of most accessory sockets. Obviously, be sure to check your vehicle's owner's manual to make sure. My F-150's accessory circuit is protected by a 15-amp fuse, so there's plenty of capacity. The other advantage of mini mobile radios is their small size. As we'll see when we take a look at my F-150 installation, an inexpensive cup holder style mount is all that's needed in many cases. I need to let you know that this XS20H radio was provided by BuyTwoWayRadios.com. They don't see the review before it's posted, and my opinions are my own. In any case, I try not to insert too many opinions in my video reviews anyway. As in the old Dragnet TV show, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. I'll leave affiliate links below too. We're sneaking up on 25,000 subscribers, so please subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to click the notification bell so you'll know when we release new videos. There's also a join and thanks button below the video if you'd like to join the community or make a one-time contribution. Thanks for your consideration. Before we look at the radio, let's talk a little bit about some of the rig's key features. Besides the low power requirements and small size, the XS20H is a tri-band radio. That means that US hams have the access to the 1.25 meter band. That band is often not very busy, so if you have a 1.25 meter repeater in your area or some 1.25 meter buddies, you'll have it pretty much to yourselves. The radio also has a very large receive range. It can receive FM signals from 136 to 175 megahertz in the VHF band and 400 to 480 in the UHF band, in addition to its transmit frequencies. You can also directly access both NOAA weather info and NOAA weather alerts. Broadcast FM frequencies are also included. The XS20H also has a crossband repeater capability. Now, this is fairly common for Wouxun radios, but it's not often found on other brands. This function allows you to use the XS20H as a repeater for special events like supporting a 5K run or when out at your hunting lease or fish camp. Set one of the display areas for VHF frequency and the other as a UHF frequency. Enable the crossband repeat function, and you can use an elevated antenna and the XS20's extra power to extend your reach. The last thing I'll mention here is the radio's display. The color screen comes with 4 user-selectable themes, including 2 with white backgrounds and 2 with black backgrounds. There is also a night mode where selected standby and active brightness levels are reduced by 50%. Let's take a look at what comes with the radio. So here's the box that the XS20H comes in. Pretty compact. Everything was packed well, and so let's take a look at what it included. First, it has an owner's manual and a warranty card that came with it. That's pretty typical. The owner's manual is also pretty typical for these Wouxun type radios. First thing you're going to notice when you open it is that the font's much bigger, which makes it easier to read. But after that, it has the usual things: diagrams of the radio, various icons, how all that stuff works, an operation, introduction here, and then it goes into explain the various menus. With most mobiles like this, the microphone has lots of hotkeys on it, so you can manage the radio from the microphone, and all that is explained here in the owner's manual. So all in all, it's pretty good. And then as you can see here, it finishes up with the various menus and explanations and choices of what those menu items are. Speaking of the microphone, this is the microphone. It has a multi-plug type screw-in connector, which is a little different than some of these mini mobiles, but this should give you a good connection and nice and secure as you have it in your vehicle or just sitting on your desk if you're going to use it for a base station. Here is the microphone itself. It's got the numbers. Each of these numbers have a function printed on them, so you can do a quick key to some of the often accessed menu items such as power and bandwidth and that kind of stuff. The main button will switch the radio between the upper and lower display, and then the menu will take you into the menu, and then across the top, you know, it's menu up, down, and exit. On the back, you've got a little clip for the microphone holder. The speaker is on the back. And then on this side, you've got the push to talk. And I believe this one goes into the FM radio. I'm not sure it's listed. And then on the top, you've got the receive and transmit indicator LEDs right there. And then you can have a little roller here, which I assume is going to change the volume here on the speaker that's on the back of the microphone and speaker combo unit here. Now, because it's a mobile radio, it's got a stand, and so you can connect the radio here. And then the hardware for that is in this little plastic bag, and I'm not going to open that, but it includes a couple of extra fuses, the nuts and bolts to mount this, along with a little clip for the microphone, depending on how you want to mount the microphone, either on your desk or in your vehicle. Now, because this is a mobile radio, it comes with a couple of different cords. This is just a heavy-duty fused connector that you would run through the firewall of your vehicle to the battery, if that's how you chose to connect it, or you could run this to a power supply in your shack. It's got one of these T connectors that will plug into the cord coming out of the back of the radio. But then it also has what I call a mini mobile or a 20-watt mobile type radio, a second cord that you can use an accessory plug. So, for example, in my Ford F-150, I can plug this into an accessory plug in the console between the seats so it's out of the way. I plug it into the radio, and it makes a really easy installation when I put the radio in a little cup holder style mount that I'll show you here when we get it mounted out in the truck itself. This is good because these mini mobiles generally don't pull a lot of amps. And in fact, I was reading the owner's manual, and it says you can anticipate that the radio pulls less than 4.5 amps, which means that most accessory ports in your vehicle are going to support that. I know for a fact in mine, I looked it up, and I would encourage you to look it up in your vehicle, but the accessory ports will take like 15 amps. They're protected by 15 amp fuses. So this has got a lot of overhead available to an accessory port, which makes it really easy to install and then uninstall or move it between vehicles using an accessory plug like this one. Here's a quick power off tour of the XS20H. So here's the radio itself. Here's that power cord we were just discussing. That T connector plugs in there. There's a fuse in here. If we look at the back, we've got a couple things here. One is a little rubber cover that covers a 3.5 millimeter plug for an 8 ohm external speaker if you want to use that. This cover covers an RJ style, Ethernet type plug on the back of the radio that I think we're going to be using when we use the CPS to program the radio. There's a nice little cover on the back of the SO239, which is our antenna connector. And then there are a couple of indents here, which lead me to believe that this chassis is used for other radios because they are just covered with plugs. Here's where you're going to connect to the stand on the left and to the right. Here there's another indicator that this radio may have a version that has some other features. This looks like it would be what you would pull back to pull the head off, but in fact the head doesn't come off. And then behind this little cover right here that screws on is a slot for an SD card, although the SD card connector there on the board itself isn't there. It's just a hole the shape of an SD card, and that's covered with a little screw and a cover. Now, as we look at the front of the radio, we've got volume, we've got channel change here, we've got power here. We can go with the main buttons that are on the front, which include the menu, up, down, and exit, and then a couple of function buttons on this side. We can change the band, the mode, transmitter dual receive is TDR, and then PF1, we can make some changes in the menus to define what PF1 does for us. And then here's that multi-pin connector for the microphone, and then we've got volume right here. So this is smooth, this one's ratcheted, so channels, and then on-off is right there. And then, of course, the screen is there on the front. So that's a quick overview of the radio and what comes in the box. Next step is to get it plugged in and programmed up, and we'll do a power on tour. We're going to turn the radio on with a long press on this orange button. It comes up with the Wouxun splash screen, and then I've done some programming. So I've got my call sign, and I've got it in the transmitter dual receive mode. So let's look at the buttons over here. We've got the audio here, and it goes up and down. There's nothing on the screen that shows that. Here is the channel, and you'll see it's on the little indicator here, shows the lower of the two displays. And so when I turn the channel, it changes down there. Now the buttons over here allow us to change the bands. So you can see that we went from the lower to the upper there in the band. The mode button goes between the VFO and channel mode. TDR is transmitter dual receive, so when I press that, the bottom display disappears, so I'm just listening to one channel at a time now. And then PF1 is a choice that you can program, so a short press currently shows FM radio right up here, and a long press, you see the green light comes on. That's the monitor, so it takes all the squelch out. So that's how I have my radio programmed right now. Now over here we can press menu, and then you can see the menu shows up over there, and then we can use the up and down buttons to work our way through the menu. And then, like most of these, press menu again for the choice, go up and down to make a choice, menu to select, and then we can work our way through the other various menu items that are available. Now it's got like 4 or 5 themes. I've got it on black 2. That's the one that I like the best, but you can make those settings yourself. And then we can exit the menu with the exit key. So you can see now we're back in memory mode, and I've got it set to display the channel. If I go up, and then mode will give me this, and then mode again will give me the name. So I can go from name to frequency to channel number to VFO. So that's what that mode button is going to do for me. Now I can do those same things here on the menu, and we'll see if we can't do this so you can see it. We've got the main, which will move that little caret up and down. Menu will move us into the menu. Exit will move us out of the menu. Obviously, up and down is going to give us choices. When we're in the menu, we can use the little shortcuts here. So if I'm in the menu, press number 2, it's labeled PWR power. It'll take me right to transmitter power. This is pretty typical for these little radios. We'll exit the menu by going there. Now, if I wanted to move the channels, I could go to, say, 005. So I go 0, 0. See, it's changing right there, and 5. And that's my first repeater. So I've got that, and then I can move up and down using the buttons as well. I can press here on the hash key for a lock, and then I've also got locks here and a couple other switches, so I can lock it here with this slider, and then I can change the brightness on the microphone with this slider here, and then I've got a roller up here which will allow me to change the volume coming out of the speaker mic if I have that set, and then I've got the LED indicators here for transmit and receive. So on this channel, if I hit the push to talk, you'll see it light up. There it went. It lit up red. So it's really pretty easy. You can work your way through programming, and it programs like just about every other Wouxun radio that you've ever seen. Here's a quick look at the radio's power output on its transmit bands. So let's take a look at the power output for this little radio. I'm on my MFJ874. I've got it at the 200 watt limit since this goes to 20, and if it goes over 20, I don't want to damage the device. So I'm on high power right now, and I'm on the 2 meter call channel. So let's see what we get here on high power. We're looking at the third arc from the bottom, and it's right at 20 watts, which is what it's advertised. Now let's go to 70 centimeters and see what we get there. Again, right at 20 watts. And last but not least, let's go to 220. We'll expect that to be a little lower, and let's see what we get there. That looks to be like 13 or 14 watts on 220. So that's pretty good power output readings for this little radio on high. Obviously, it's got lower power readings, and as hams, we want to use the least power available. But on high, this is what you can expect to get. Now, let's head out to the truck and take a look at one mounting method you might want to consider. So here we've got the radio mounted in my F-150. You see I'm using a cup holder mount, and then on the bottom side I've got the bracket, and then just screwed into the mount using some small screws and then some wing nuts so that it's easy to take off and either exchange with another radio, or I just loosen the cup holder mount there in the cup holder itself and then pull it out and then put it here in my compartment. That keeps it hidden and out of sight. Over here you can see that I've got the power and the antenna coming out in a little lip there in the console housing, and then there in the console itself here there's a little 12-volt accessory plug that the radio is plugged into, and then I can just leave the microphone laying in the little cubby there in the console itself. And so it's really not hard to mount. I put it in a couple of different ways just to get the spacing so I can open up the console cover and that kind of thing, and then I've got it set so that it's easy to read when I'm driving and I can see the channel that I'm on and so forth. So it really does mount pretty easy. That's one of the really cool things about these little mini mobile radios, is that they're so easy to mount in just about any vehicle without having to do a lot of work and running wires through firewalls and that kind of thing. In this audio test, I'll use my Wouxun KG-935 as the other radio. We'll also listen to some audio I did getting a signal check from a local repeater.
Transmit test for the XS20H. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. Test, test, test. Test out.
AA7JM. Looking for a signal check. Just mounted a new radio in my vehicle. Is there anyone out there who can give me an indicator of whether or not I'm doing okay?
Yeah, W7CK. A little bit of static, but the audio sounds good. Not sure how far you are away from the repeater.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm at my home, and it's probably 18 miles or so from the repeat. It's usually a little fuzzy from where I am, but I appreciate your coming back to me. AA7JM.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's totally legible. It's not that bad at all. I'm just letting you know that there is just a little bit of static there on the signal. But otherwise, it sounds great.
Okay, again, thank you very much, 73, and we'll be clear, AA7JM. As we wrap this up, let's take a quick tour of the factory CPS. While basic, it gets the job done, and in my opinion, it's much easier to use than entering a bunch of channels from the microphone or radio faceplate. So here's a quick thumbnail sketch of the XS20H CPS. You can see it's got most of the icons here. Those are duplicated in these drop-down menus. Most of the drop-down menus are going to be familiar to you. Typical Windows things, new, open, save, and so forth. View the status bar. Here in the memory is where you're going to find read and write and the port select, which is important. So we'll check the port. It'll come up. It'll give you the active ports on your computer. And I'm on port 7 with the Wouxun programming cable for this radio. In the configuration settings, these are the things in the menus. And so the display, the brightness box, all of the stuff you're used to seeing is written here. And these are all done in drop-down boxes. So it's real easy to program. In the VFO, you can set the working mode. I've got it set to channel and name, and the channel for A and B, which in my radio I've got VHF and then UHF call. We go here to FM broadcast memories. I just put in a couple of the local broadcast stations here in the Phoenix area. Here I've defined my key settings, and you can have a number of choices there to do that in a way that makes sense to you and for what your needs are. You can set up your scan groups here. Basically, they're just in 100 channel units right here. And then call settings. This is for DTMF calling, which I don't do. Now, the main thing, of course, is going to be in the memories. And the memories are right here. And so you can see then that I have a number of repeaters programmed in. These came with the radio. The UHF, VHF, and 220 call channels are listed there. And then I added some channels. This is kind of tedious, and at one point the program crashed. So I would recommend doing a save every once in a while, so if you don't want to go back and do all this programming again. It happens pretty easily. You know, you click here, type in the frequency, and it duplicates all this stuff. You give it a name, and then with the repeater, of course, you'll need to apply the appropriate offset. You can use Repeater Book to look up repeaters. That works out pretty good. Like most factory CPSs, it, of course, does not import, which is a shortcoming, but it is what it is. It's also not available in Chirp, at least right now. I've got my other channels down here. Here are my UHF repeaters in town. And then if there were any 220s, I'd put them in here, but Phoenix is not a big 220 repeater town. And then when you're done, you just, hit save, and you find a place to save it on your computer. I like to use my OneDrive so I can access it if I'm not here at home from any of my computers that might have this software loaded on it, and then write it to the radio. Now, the radio faceplate doesn't change, but you'll get a little status bar down here that shows that things are loading to the radio. And then when you're done, it does a quick reboot, and it comes up with the channels and changes that you've made. So that's our KG-XS20H CPS. The Wouxun XS20H is a bit more expensive than some of the mini mobiles on the market. However, I found that Wouxun radios tend to be worth the extra expense. Their solid construction and rich feature sets set them apart from many of the less expensive radios you'll see out there. Buy Two-Way Radios is one of only a few Wouxun dealers in the U.S. While they've provided me a couple of radios over the years, I've also purchased several from them, and I found the shipping time was prompt, and the few times I've had questions, they've responded promptly. Again, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Join me over here for a review of a similarly equipped Wouxun Ham HT. I'll include a couple of affiliate links below too. Thanks for watching. 73.